At my first book launch, I asked my kids to come and support me. None of them showed up. They all went to my son's mother-in-law's spa day instead. So I did something I should have done years ago when they found out 99 plus missed calls. If you're watching this video, tell me where you're from or what time it is for you. If I fail today, I'll lose the last small belief that my life matters beyond being everyone's emergency contact and free babysitter. I'm standing at a folding table under warm track lights that make my scalp prickle. Harbor Light Books wrapped a lavender ribbon around a stack of 15 copies of Small Weather, my debut novel. A tin bucket of pens, silver, not gold, the owner said silver photographs better, waits by my elbow. Across the aisle, a cluster of strangers swirls around the tray of mini cupcakes and the single bottle of Merlot I bought myself. They ask where the restroom is. They ask if the wine is free. None of them asks about my book. I keep my smile like a good blouse. Ironed, tidy, one size too tight. I sign 3 copies. The owner, an old colleague who still calls me Mrs. Bennett, and a persistent retiree who says she admires grit. And then I spend the next 2 hours answering questions about bookmarks and directions to the nearest parking garage. My phone keeps buzzing in my purse with texts I already know by heart. Kara first, with her polished voice. Laura, so sorry. Diane planned a girls' spa day for the kids, massages. You understand, right? Then Evan, my son, smooth as a well-worn apology. Mom, you know how important these in-law relationships are. We'll celebrate later. Then my daughter, Maya, finally. If it's just me and David, just me, it'll feel awkward. Maybe we can reschedule? It's 4:03 p.m. when I close my last unsold box. The books thunk into the trunk of my car like bricks I can't stop lifting. I drive home through Maple Glen under low gray clouds that make the streets shine. I put the wine, untouched, on my kitchen counter, and the house greets me with that particular quiet that isn't peace. It's vacancy. The photos on the mantle look different tonight. In every frame, I'm there, yes, cropped at the shoulder or half a step behind, smiling at a life I built for other people. Evan's graduation, Diane beaming, front and center. Maya's wedding, my head turned just enough to miss the lens. Birthdays, holidays, school plays. I can smell old frosting and new expectations on the glass. I pour a glass of the Merlot I bought to celebrate me and drink to the truth instead. I have been reliable, which is not the same thing as being loved. I don't sleep. I sort. I list. I draw columns with a nice bright pen like I'm still the English teacher who solved problems by itemizing them into thesis, evidence, conclusion. Tuition paid. Starter homes financed. Wedding checks written. Emergency loans never discussed again. 10 years of free childcare quantified in hours, then in dollars I'll never see and don't want back. None of it is a bill. All of it is a record. By morning, the October air tastes like apples and second chances. I scramble 2 eggs, butter toast like a person with a plan, and place my old legal pad in the sunbeam on the kitchen table. The stakes are simple and unkind. Either I teach my family how to love me while I'm alive, or I keep auditioning for a role in a show that runs on my dime. At 9 a.m., I dial a number I haven't used since the divorce. Brooks and Larson? Alan Brooks, please, I say. The receptionist puts me on hold just long enough for my courage to rattle. Laura? Alan's voice carries the warm rasp of law books and coffee. How did the launch go? It told me what I needed to know. He says, hearing the verdict even if I don't say it. Come in this morning? 9:30. When I hang up, I realize my hand is steady. Not theatrical, not revenge steady. Classroom steady. I once proctored final exams with a tornado warning sounding 3 blocks away. I can proctor my own life. At 10:58, I'm in a lobby made of glass and confidence at Heritage First Bank. Trust department, I tell the desk when they ask. They offer cucumber water. I take it. I want cool onto my tongue. I want to speak without heat. Ms. Bennett? A woman in a navy blazer smiles like precision. I'm Naomi Clark. We shake hands. I'd like to set up 3 educational trusts, I say, and the words feel both foreign and correctly pronounced, like ordering in a language I studied in college and always meant to use someday. 1 each for my grandchildren. Sophie is 12, Max is 9, Nora is 7. K grad school, but conditional. Conditional. Her pen hovers. They get the funds if they maintain a real relationship with me, I say. Monthly contact. Not performance. Letters, phone calls, Saturday pancakes, the kind of love that remembers birthdays and asks about bad days. Naomi nods. We can draft a definition of genuine relationship. Specific, measurable, and if conditions aren't met? Literacy programs, I say. If they don't know me, they can help kids who will know books. At 2:00 p.m., I'm in a different lobby with different art, abstracts that feel like weather moving, and I tell Paul Rivera, my financial advisor of 15 years, to begin the transfers I have a right to make. You want to gift your sister? He asks, polite alarm cutting through the practiced calm. Annual maximum? Yes, I say. Jo calls every Sunday. She remembered the title of my book without reading the dust jacket. She's earned the right to be my family and to benefit from family money. Laura, Paul says gently, is this about yesterday? It's about the last 3 decades of yesterdays, I say, looking him squarely in the face. It's about finally matching my resources to my values. I drive home through maple shadows, through the thin, bright blue of cold that hasn't arrived yet. My phone buzzes. The children, then the in-law, then the child again. I let it hum itself out like a bad habit. I stop at the market and buy pears so ripe their skins bruise with a glance, a wedge of cheddar I used to keep hidden behind sandwich bread so small hands wouldn't borrow it, and peonies I don't have to explain to anyone. At home, I make a plate just for me. It looks like a painting. I sit in the quiet and eat every bite. Kinetic beat hits at 3:17 p.m. Evan on my doorstep. He doesn't text this time. He rings, hard, as if a bell can pull the past back into place. His worry looks handsome on him. It always has. It makes me feel like a crisis he can solve. Mom, he says, talk to me. Coffee? I ask, my favorite teapot already whistling like I have hosts inside my bones. What's your favorite color? I ask when we sit. He blinks. What? My favorite color, Evan. He laughs, surprised. Green? Purple, I say. I tip my head toward the peonies, fat as summer moons on the table. It's been purple for 30 years. He stares at the flowers. Mom, I didn't come to take a quiz. I know, I say. But if you don't know the answer to the easiest questions about me, maybe you don't know me. He starts to argue, and then the old gesture, the hand through the hair that used to signal his brain was sprinting, flares and settles. I guess I just always thought of you as Mom. Constant. You've never needed this. Attention? I ask. Interest? Love that isn't tied to a casserole or a ride or a check? He winces. We messed up Saturday. You didn't just miss a launch, I say, and my voice is even, which feels miraculous. You miss that I wanted you there. You miss that I'm a person on the stage, not behind it. I'll make it up to you, he says, eager, boyish. We'll throw a big dinner. Big. Invite everyone. We can. No, I say softly. He blinks again. No. It's too late for a party to fix something a party didn't break. What did break it? Years of being useful instead of known, I say. Years of me teaching you to take me for granted. That's on me. But the next part, what I allow, belongs to me, too. He looks at the peonies again, then at me. So what happens now? Now you decide what kind of relationship you want with me, I say. Real or pretend. Meanwhile, I'm going to live like my life is mine. When he leaves, the house exhales. So do I. Relief tastes like cold coffee and a plan. I call my sister, Jo, after the sunset slides down the fence. I did it, I tell her, and she laughs that low, broken laugh of ours that sounds like two women who survived the same ocean in different boats. About time, she says. When are you coming to Santa Fe? Soon, I say, and I mean it like a vow. Night comes, and I don't check my voicemail. It's a small rebellion. Let the chorus sing to an empty theater. The next morning, rise as bright as brass. I put on the black suit that makes me stand up straighter and walk into Alan's office with my shoulders back. You're sure? He asks when I finish. Trust for the kids, yes. Conditions, kindness, presence, proof you're not just showing up for checks, donations to the library, to the shelter, to the food pantry where I sometimes stock cans on Thursdays and nobody asks whose mother I am. Modest bequests to Evan and Maya, generous gifts to Jo. My house, the only place that has ever felt like I picked it on purpose, placed where it can host people who want to be with me, not with my fridge or my driveway. I'm not angry, I tell him. I'm awake. Then let's put it in writing, he says. At Heritage First Bank again, Naomi slides drafts across the desk. Language for genuine relationship, she says, tapping one paragraph. Monthly contact, voluntary, not contingent on disbursement dates. Participation in family events when invited. Evidence can be letters, calls, visits, photos. If not met, funds redirect to literacy. It's not a trap, I say, reading each line. It's a ladder. She smiles. I like that. By 2 p.m., the papers are signed in triplicate. The pen leaves my hand and a small ache blooms at the base of my thumb. It's the ache of holding on too long. It's also the ache of finally letting go. Back home, I open the trunk and look at the boxes of books. Unsold doesn't mean unloved. I carry one into the kitchen and prop it open to the dedication. For everyone who thinks their second act needs permission. I didn't write that line for me then. I accept it for me now. My phone lights up on the counter with another wave of texts. Maya, then Kara. I let them stack, one tile on another, a digital game I'm not playing tonight. I light a candle that smells like cedar and thyme, and I read my own novel the way I read strangers' books, out loud in places, underlining not what's clever but what's true. Kinetic beat, again, arrives as twilight. A call from a number I know too well in emergencies. Evan's voice, frantic, tripping over itself. Mom, pick up, please. Are you okay? Rachel, Maya said you were talking about changes. We're worried. Call me back. We'll fix this. I let the message finish. I look into the little flame until the wick glows red and sour and beautiful. Worry is what happens when convenience meets a locked door. I turn off the phone and sleep, really sleep, the kind that solves nothing and steadies everything. In the morning, the world smells like rain and lemons and possibilities I didn't believe in until I saw their paperwork. I do one more thing. It isn't melodramatic. It's administrative. I call Alan. Draft a statement that I'm of sound mind, I say. Voluntary decisions. No duress. You're getting pushback, he says. I'm getting a lifetime condensed into voicemails, I say, and I almost laugh. Let's tuck the statement into the file. He does. I cook oatmeal the way I like it with almond butter and dark chocolate chips and no small commentary about sugar. I eat at the table with the peonies going a little soft in the vase, petals loosening like the end of a sentence. At noon, I walk the boxes of small weather to the little free library on Laurel Street, 3 at a time, because my back has limits and my pride doesn't need to prove anything. A woman in a red coat stops me. You wrote that, she says, touching the cover like it's a living thing. I saw your picture in the paper. I'm sorry I missed your event. Me too, I say, and I mean it, but not for the reasons she expects. She takes a copy. She tucks it under her arm like a loaf of bread. Congratulations, she says, on the book, on everything. I might cry in front of a stranger. I don't. Instead, I say thank you like I learned the word for the first time. By the time I get home, the peonies have dropped a circle of purple on the table. It looks like a crown in a mess. So does my life. I sweep the petals into my palm and hold them there, weightless and staining. I set a single petal between the pages of my copy, a bookmark for the next chapter, not because I have to write it quickly, because it finally belongs to me. The papers on my kitchen table look like a small storm that forgot how to move on. Manila folders, clipped drafts, my own handwriting marching the margins with notes that are not questions but instructions. I keep touching them the way you touch fabric before you sew it to learn what it will be under the needle. A day ago, this would have felt like posturing. Today, it feels like posture, spine, shoulders, the way you carry your name through a room. At 9, I'm back at Allen's, my lawyer with the coffee-rasped voice and the patient eyebrows. We go line by line. The will redrafted with a no-contest clause. Discourages litigation, he says, which is another way to say, we are not going to fight each other for my life. Power of attorney, financial and medical, assigned to Joe, not the kids. I don't do it to jab. I do it because my sister listens like it's her job and decides like it's her skill. Leave a letter of intent, Allen says, sliding a clean sheet toward me. Not binding, but guiding. Tell them what matters to you. Tell them why. I think of my peonies shedding on the table, purple softening toward bruise, and write. If you only read the first paragraph, let it be this. Nothing here is punishment. It is practice. I am teaching you how to love me while I'm living. Allen reads, and his eyebrows lift in a way that means he approves without being paid to. Good, he says. Plain language. Tone is steady. He taps a paragraph about the trusts for the grandkids. You're certain about the monthly contact. I'm certain about reality, I say. I'm not measuring perfection. I'm measuring presence. We sign what needs signing. When the paralegal leaves us alone, Allen leans back. Expect pushback. I am, I answer, and I'm surprised to hear the sentence land without rattling the windows. But I'm not inviting a debate. I'm notifying them of my decision. My phone hums in my purse as if it can smell its cue. On the way home, I stop by the print shop that knows me by bookmarks and black and white copies. I don't put my name on the envelopes. I write it inside. The notes are short, one for each of them, folded around a photograph I printed this morning. Sophie gets the picture from the day she taught me how to make friendship bracelets at my kitchen table. Both of us squinting with tongues between our teeth, thread colors fanned like a small paper rainbow. Max gets the one where we don capes made of bath towels and jump from the bottom step pretending to fly. Nora, the smallest, gets the one of us reading on the floor by the couch, her hair poured across my arm, my mouth open mid-sentence, because apparently I talk with my whole face. On the back of each photo, I write, let's practice being in one another's lives on purpose. Pancakes, first Saturday of the month, my house, 10 o'clock. Bring a story you want me to hear. I drop the envelopes at the post office and feel like I've thrown stones in a river, just to watch the circles widen. The pushback arrives before the ink dries. At 2, Maya's car pulls up, fast enough to spray the curb with a petty wave. She's carrying a box of muffins that look like they were chosen for their substance. Bran, raisins, good intentions. Hi, Mom, she says, in that voice adult children use when they think they're about to parent. She sets the muffins down, tidies a non-existent crumb with the quick swipe of someone about to tidy me. Coffee? I ask, and mine laughs from the pot as if we rehearse this. She does not sit. Kara called me, she says. Evan told her you're making changes. Accurate. And that you put Joe in charge of decisions if, she waves a hand, can't finish, refuses the sentence like a dish that looks suspicious. Why wouldn't you trust your own children? I do, I say. I trust you to be exactly who you are right now. Busy, loving in bursts, ready to fix a crisis, less practiced at showing up when no one is bleeding. Wow, she says, a word that doesn't know if it's mad or impressed. That's true, I provide gently, and unfair of me because I trained you in it. I was so reliable you learned not to see me as someone who needed anything. You're acting like we're strangers. No, I say. I am acting like the only expert on my own life. She finally sits. The chair sighs as if grateful to be used for its purpose. If you had asked, she says, softening, we would have come Saturday. We would have... Maya, I say, and her name is a small bell I ring to call us both back to the present. I did ask, for months in small ways. I asked when I told you the date, when I showed you the cover, when I said I was nervous. You heard me and chose other people. I'm not scolding. I'm naming the weather. My mother-in-law's spa day had been on the calendar for weeks, and mine had been on your refrigerator for months. Her eyes get wet. Her mouth gets stubborn. Why frame it that way? Because framing is how you see the picture. We go quiet long enough to hear the second hand on the kitchen clock count our breaths. Then she says, I don't like this version of you. Neither do I admit. She will not last. I will keep the spine and lose the edge. She laughs through her nose, despite herself. You're still funny. Still me, I say. Does Evan know about Joe? She asks. He'll learn when you do, I answer. Now. Maya pulls a muffin from the box, peels back the paper, and stares at the dense crumb like it holds an omen. Is this because of your health stuff? She says delicately, as if illness is a word that carries curses like pollen. It's because of my life stuff, I say. The health is mine to share when I'm ready. Her eyes flick up fast, searching for the door to that room. I don't open it. She wipes the crumbs into a small hill and says finally, I want to be better at this. So do I say. Let's schedule practice instead of promises. I open my calendar and offer 2 evenings next week. She chooses one, then the other as a backup. We set a time like people who intend to keep it. After she leaves, the house holds an echo that isn't vacancy this time, just air closing after a door. At 4, my phone lights with a new group thread, family dinner planning. And I know without opening that this is how my children imagine fixing a leak. Ladle a party over it, I read anyway. Kara, everyone come to our place Friday. Let's celebrate Mom in the book. We'll do a toast. Evan, yes, I'll send Evites. Mom, no cooking. We've got it. Joe, not in the thread. I forward it to her out of habit and she replies with a single eye emoji. Maya, I think Mom's asking for something smaller than a big push. Kara, 3 dots pulsing, then, it's not a push, it's love. Me, thank you. I'm not available Friday. I'm free Tuesday at 6 for dinner with just my kids. No speeches. The dots pulse. Stop. Pulse. Evan. We can do Tuesday. Kara can make it. Me. I said, just my kids. A long pause. Then Kara privately, I didn't realize I'm not welcome. Me. You are welcome in my life. This dinner is not about you. It's about me knowing my children and my children knowing me. Her reply arrives composed and glossy, like a magazine page. Understood. I hope the kids aren't punished by these conditions. The ellipsis does a lot of work. I place the phone face down and put both hands on the table. Not punishment, I remind myself. Practice. When the doorbell rings at dinner time, I imagine Evan, but it's Joe, holding a paper bag that smells like roasted chicken and a second bag that clinks. Emergency provisions, she says, leaning in for a hug that lands solidly. And a bottle for emergencies that involve toasts when there is no one else in the room. We eat at the counter, plates balanced on our palms like we're teenagers. I tell her about the muffins, the group thread, the way Kara wrote conditions like a slur. You're good at this, Joe says. You're using full sentences. You're resisting the urge to apologize for breathing. I'm using the table like a shield, I admit. If it's covered in paper, I can't climb up on it to serve. She snorts. Put that in your next letter of intent. We wash the plates, close the cupboards. My phone buzzes again. Evan, this time, with a screenshot of an article about How Conditional Inheritances Harm Families. I don't open it. I know what it will say, and I already know what I want to say back. Unconditional money has been harming ours for a while. Don't debate philosophy over text, Joe advises, catching the look on my face. Invite them to action. No more discourse, only dates. Dates and pancakes, I say, and a small happiness breaks like an egg into my chest. After Joe leaves, the quiet feels companionable. I pick up the letter of intent and read it once more, checking for stray meanness. There isn't any. There is, however, a sentence I add. If you think this is about money, it's not. It's about attention, which is the currency of love. I set my pen down and stare through the kitchen window at the evening pooling in the yard. A rabbit steps out from the hydrangea and grazes, twitching, ready to sprint and also entirely committed to eating what's in front of it. I feel a kinship. The night brings another kind of pushback, quiet fear, the voice that wonders if I'm wrong, the one that recites every time I accepted crumbs and called it a meal because I was allowed to sit at the table. It hums softest when the house is stillest, which means I hear it perfectly. I do not argue with it. I tell it what my students used to tell me when I tutored them through revisions. I'll show you in the next draft. The next day is practical. I change the code on the garage keypad, not because anyone has abused it, but because I taught them to appear without asking. I hang a hook by the front door and place a small sign on it that says, "Your expectations, check here." I laugh when I do it, then leave it up because why not? I make a small, unadvertised donation to the library's after-school program and write a note on the online form, in honor of a future where we know one another by name. Their auto-reply includes an image of children curled like commas over books big enough to be their whole world. I like the grammar of it. On Tuesday at 6, because we put it in writing, my kids arrive without spouses, without fanfare, in the clothes of people who had other things scheduled and canceled them for this. We sit at my table and do not talk about the will. I tell them about the woman in the red coat who took my book like bread. Maya tells me a story about a student who wrote an essay in one-syllable words and made her entire department cry. Evan talks about the project that's been eating his weekends and how he forgot how to be bored. Boredom is a pasture, I say. You need it to grow anything. Put that in your next novel, he says, and something in me unclenches. We keep small. It feels correct. We do not solve the problem of us. We set a second date. When they leave, they hug me one at a time like a ritual, not a rescue. The first Saturday pancakes arrive like a small holiday. Sophie asks if she can bring cinnamon because pancakes are good, but cinnamon makes them particular. Max brings a story about a friend who moved and how video games keep being the bridge. And somehow we talk about bridges for 20 minutes, wooden ones that creak, steel ones that sing, friendship ones that need maintenance the way bicycles do. Nora brings me a yellow leaf she found shaped like a cat's ear and names it Name TBD because she likes how to be determined sounds like a mission, not a shrug. We take a picture after pancakes, sticky faces, my purple peonies, now a green tangle past bloom, Max holding the spatula like a flag, and I do not post it anywhere. I print it and tape it to the inside of the pantry door, eye level where the cereal lives. I want to remember that some things don't announce themselves. They just recur. The pinch tightens in subtler places. On Sunday, Kara leaves a voicemail that begins with, "I'm just trying to understand," and ends with, "We're all a little worried you've been influenced by Joe." Diane, the mother-in-law with spa days like seasons, sends cupcakes addressed to family, no names, and a note that says, "We rise by lifting others." I do not eat them. I deliver them to the shelter where no one asks who lifted whom. Evan calls and says, "Kara thinks the conditions are manipulative." I think living my life openly is contagious, I say. It will either infect your marriage with clarity or it won't. You always pick good metaphors, he says. And I hear the smile, even as he tries not to let me hear it. Practice, baby, I say. When the pushback finally shows its sharpest edge, it isn't from my children. It's from the story I've told myself for 30 years, the one where my usefulness buys me a front row seat to love. It knocks at midnight, as stories do, and asks if I'm sure I want to sit in the audience with a ticket that says person instead of mom. I get out of bed, pad to the kitchen, and read my own note on the counter. 2 words on a sticky that I wrote in a moment of clarity and left there for exactly this. Keep choosing. I pour water. I choose it again. In the morning, there's an envelope on my mat, hand-delivered. The handwriting is careful, as if it knows it's walking across thin ice. It's from Kara. Inside is a letter that could have been an argument but isn't. Laura, it begins, and I respect the name. Not mom, not mother-in-law, not Mrs. Bennett, just me. I don't understand all of this. But I read your sentences about practice. I never had that with my mother. Everything was transactional and brittle. If you're willing, I would like to schedule the kind of small visits you described. No speeches, just showing up. Tuesdays won't work for me, but I could do Thursdays, early. I'll bring fruit, or I can just sit and listen if you want to talk. Kay, I stand in the doorway and breathe. The morning smells like rain pretending to be polite. I think about saying yes. I think about the way I demanded just my kids for dinner and how good that boundary felt. I think about bridges. I write, Thursdays at 8, fruit welcome. Leave the speeches at home. At noon, Naomi from Heritage First Bank calls. Just confirming, she says. We've added the language you asked for. Letters count, calls count, pancakes count. She laughs lightly at that last one. Also, I put your literacy donation on an annual schedule. We'll send you a report each year. Perfect, I say. It's nice to have something in my life that knows how to renew. She hesitates, then adds, You're being very clear. Clarity is a kindness, I say, and believe it. I end the day the way I began it, at the table, with paper. Only now, it's a small stack of recipes Sophie asked me to write down. My pancakes, baking powder, not soda, buttermilk if it's in the house, milk and lemon if it's not. My applesauce, leave the peels on, color as flavor. My grilled cheese, cheddar and mustard, just a swipe. I title the little packet Our Practice and tuck it into an envelope to hand her next time. When I turn off the kitchen light, the room holds in the dark like someone holding their breath underwater and discovering they can last longer than they thought. I stand there and feel it. What the paper shield is doing is not blocking blows. It's teaching me how to keep my hands up, ready, steady, open. The phone on the counter blinks with 3 unread messages. I do not look. I know what they are. I also know what tomorrow is. A Thursday with fruit and an hour of attention, a practice, a choice. A page turned, not ripped. The storm on the table has moved on. It left something behind, not wreckage, weathered wood, the kind you build with. Kara shows up at 8 sharp on Thursday with a paper sack of fruit like a peace flag. Peaches, pears, a grapefruit that looks like it knows something. She takes off her shoes at the door without being asked and stands in my kitchen as if you have to earn the right to sit. Tea? I offer. I brought oranges, she answers, as if fruit were a full sentence. Then, quieter, tea would be lovely. We move carefully, as if the floor could misinterpret us. She arranges slices in a white bowl and sets it between us. When I said conditions in my text, I heard my mother, she says, eyes fixed on citrus. Everything with her had strings, grades for affection, clean baseboards for a calm house. I'm not good at love without rubrics. Me either, I admit. I'm trying to trade rubrics for rituals. Like pancakes, she says, a rueful smile. Like pancakes, I echo. We sip. The kitchen feels like a room where 2 adults could learn a new alphabet. She clears her throat. If I fail at this and make you feel managed, Please say so right then. I will, I say. You can do the same. Deal. She pulls a small notebook from her bag. I made a list of questions I should know how to answer about you and don't. I laugh, surprised and warmed. That's sweet. More like necessary. She flips it open. Favorite movie? Depends on the month. Today, a room with a view. Favorite candy? Dark chocolate with almonds, no salt. Favorite time of day? Very early or very late, the edges. She writes, diligent, like someone mapping a coastline. When she stands to leave, work, she says, tilting her head toward the world. She squeezes my shoulder. It reads as respect, not ownership. Progress, I think, and let the thought sit. The phone rings 20 minutes later. Not one of the kids. The clinic. A voice I know by competence asks if I can come in Monday instead of next Thursday. We'd like to move things up, she says, careful, as if the sentence has a fragile cargo. Monday is fine, I say, steady. After I hang up, my hand hums. I turn the water on and off at the sink just to hear a faucet behave. I tell no one, not yet. The decision is not secrecy, it is sequencing. I have built a week for practice. I don't want to blow a whistle and turn it into a drill. Saturday pancakes arrive like a little drum beat. The kids bring cinnamon, a joke, and a yellow leaf named TBD. We whisk and flip and talk about bridges again. Nora tells me she wants a bridge between her bed and the ceiling so she can walk to dreams. Max corrects her and says that's a ladder. Sophie shrugs and says sometimes the same thing is both. After the plates are licked clean and the spatula is back in its drawer, Evan shows up to ferry them home. He leans against the doorway the way he did when he was 16 and thought door frames were for leaning and looking handsome. Smells like a diner in here, he says. A very exclusive one, I answer. Members only. He watches his children climb into his car and then doesn't move to follow. Instead, he steps inside, closes the door softly, and exhales the kind of breath that announces a hard talk. We met with someone, he starts, eyes studying the floor. Just for information, about undue influence capacity. We're not accusing, we're trying to understand. There are steps families can take if they're worried. You're worried, I say, level. I'm worried I missed something, that this... He gestures at my kitchen, the orderly stack of bowls, the vase of peonies, now mostly green, is a symptom. I open the drawer where I keep takeout menus and pull out a single sheet of paper. Alan's letter, statement of sound mind, drafted and notarized, voluntary decisions, no duress. I place it on the table. You're litigating a feeling, I say gently. Here is a fact, Evan reads, swallows. Kara's mother, he begins, then stops. Kara is scared of losing you to rules. I am scared of losing me to convenience, I say. Fear is a bad designer, but it tells you which rooms matter. His eyes shine. Mom, are you sick? I am fine today, I say, because it is true and large enough for both of us to hold, and I am living like my life counts now, not just later. He presses his thumb to the edge of the paper, lines up the corner like a boy fixing a math worksheet. You put Joe in charge if you can't decide for yourself. I did, I say. She listens like a practice and decides like a craft. And she doesn't confuse making decisions with taking control. He nods. Once. Small. I hate that I didn't know purple was your favorite. You know it now, I say. He looks up. What do you want from me? No slogans, no abstractions. Tell me like I'm bad at guessing. Okay, I say. A walk every other Sunday, just us. Your phone in your pocket, not in your hand. One story you tell me that doesn't solve anything, just says what it's like inside your life. And a question, asked out loud, that you don't already know the answer to. He smiles through a frown. That's a lot. It's a start. He folds the letter and hands it back. I'll bring sneakers, he says, and I believe him. He's not out of the driveway 10 minutes before Maya knocks fast enough to rattle glass. She walked. which means she came as soon as she read the family thread. She is flushed with heat and conviction. "Did Evan talk to you about lawyers?" she says in lieu of hello. "We talked," I say. I pour her water and put it in her hand like first aid. "This is absurd." She paces a tidy path. "We're not vultures. We're your children. We have always been your children." "That's true," I say, "and also not the whole truth." She stops, stung. "What more do you want from us?" "Less," I say, and the word is a small glass of cold water for both of us. Less crisis, less performance, less assuming that mom means available commodity. More small, dull, durable things. Slices of Tuesday, 10-minute check-ins where we don't fix anything, we just see each other. She sits, covers her face with both hands, speaks into her palms. "Why does this feel like punishment?" "Because you're used to me being sugar," I say. "I'm fiber now. It's good for you. It's not as exciting." She barks a laugh despite herself. Then she looks at me, bare. "I'm scared," she says. "Not of losing money. Of losing the version of you that made everything feel smoothed." "I'll never keep you from the truth to keep you comfortable," I say. She hears something under that sentence, something not named. Her eyes narrow. "Is there something wrong with your health?" she asks, soft-footed, as if she doesn't want to scare the answer into hiding. "Today is good," I say, honest, "and Monday I have an appointment to talk about what might not be." Her breath catches. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because you deserved practice before you deserved information," I say. "I want you to show up for me, not for a diagnosis. That's the experiment." She nods, hurt and understanding wrestling like twins. "Please let me drive you Monday." "No," I say, kind and firm. "If I ask and you can't, it will teach the wrong lesson. If I don't ask and you offer, it teaches a different one. Let's start there." "I'm offering," she says immediately. "I heard you," I say, and take her hand. "Let me sleep on it." That night, I do not sleep right away. I make a list labeled now and another labeled later, because the old English teacher in me still believes in categories. Under now, keep pancakes, keep walks, keep Kara's Thursdays. Under later, and tell the children details, tell the children plans. Santa Fe with Joe when the sky inside my head needs more sky. The reckoning comes in waves, as advertised. A call from Diane in the morning. She uses the word manipulative as if it were a diagnosis and not an opinion. "We rise by lifting others," she says again, and I finally say, "Sometimes lifting looks like stepping back." She is not charmed. An email from a cousin who has just discovered philanthropy and wants to direct mine. I reply with one sentence. "My giving is local and relational this year. Bless your efforts elsewhere." A voicemail from Paul, my advisor, who has answers to questions I haven't asked, and a tone that suggests my decisiveness is unusual in a woman. I call him back and say, "Unusual doesn't mean unwise. You could bottle his fluster and sell it as effervescence." When the air stills, I take out a single sheet of stationery and write 3 paragraphs titled, "What I Am Doing." Not a manifesto, a memo. Bullet points and dates. My home is not an emergency room. Please schedule visits unless you are bleeding, on fire, or grieving. Monthly pancakes continue, first Saturdays at 10. Bring 1 story and 1 question. Leave your schedule as you found it. Open for next time. I will not attend large, performative dinners meant to prove something about our family. I will attend small, repeatable dinners that do not need a toast to be real. I sign it, scan it, and send it to Evan and Maya. 10 minutes later, Evan replies with a thumbs up and a shoe emoji. I assume this means walk. Maya replies with understood, which, from a teacher, is a promise. There is one more call I have to make. Joe picks up on the second ring. "Tell me," she says, as if the line were a chair and I should sit. "Monday moved up," I say. "I'll be on a plane Sunday," she says automatically. "No," I say. Wait, if it's nothing, I'll feel foolish and grateful. If it's something, I'll ask. That's a good sentence to live by, she says, and I hear the smile that has saved me more than once. Tea after? On FaceTime? Yes, I say, with almonds. When Monday arrives, it has weather, the kind that starts sunny and rearranges itself without apology. I dress like a person who prefers control, black pants, the good jacket, earrings that feel like punctuation, and put two things in my bag, my book with the purple petal pressed inside and a folded copy of the Letter of Intent. At the door, I hesitate. Not from fear, though that hums like a refrigerator behind everything. From the question of whether to text my children. I send two messages that are exactly the same. Appointment today. I'll call after. No need to come. Love you. 3 dots appear and recede on both threads. The silence feels like respect, or shock, or a mix. I lock the door and put the spare key on a different hook, the one labeled neighbor, because I gave her a copy yesterday. A small redistribution of trust. The clinic is a building with no name in my story, just light and linoleum and the cold confidence of machines. The nurse uses my first name and a tone that holds both professionalism and a human's weather. Some tests, she says. Some waiting. In the waiting, I read my own pages, not the clever bits. The sentences that remember second acts are a choice, not a reward. I underline without apology. I think of Evan's sneakers and Maya's precise shoulders and Kara's notebook. I think of peonies which bloom big and go fast, and of the messy grace of plants that flower modestly all summer. By the time a door opens and someone calls my name, I am smooth on the surface and braced underneath, a small boat with its ballast where it belongs. When I come home hours later, the weather has turned. Fat drops hit the porch like heavy punctuation. I sit in the car for a minute listening to rain thrum a roof that knows my name. Then I go inside, put the kettle on, and call Joe. We say what there is to say, which at this point is not diagnosis but direction. There will be more tests, sooner. The word biopsy takes a chair at the table and waits politely for its turn to speak. I text the children. Home. Fine. More appointments this week. We can talk after dinner. Maya's dots appear and become a sentence. I can drive you Wednesday. Evans arrive on top of hers. I can sit in the waiting room if you want. I look at both and choose the boundary that feels both brave and kind. I call them one at a time. Thank you, I say. Let me try the first one alone. If I want company after that, I'll ask. We'll treat showing up as a practice, not a performance. They say okay. They don't love it. They mean it. The reckoning has done its work. We're not measuring love by who can scramble fastest to the crisis. We're marking it by who can sit in the long, ordinary hours without making them about themselves. That night, I take the purple petal from my book and tape it to the inside of the front door at eye level. A small private flag. Then I write one more note on my now list. Buy walking shoes. Not for recovery, for the Sunday path with my son. I sleep. Not the oblivion of exhaustion, the thinner, conscious kind where you know you're sleeping and you let yourself keep doing it. In my dream, bridges braid themselves over a river and nobody rushes to cross first. We all take turns. We all look at the water. We all arrive. Monday, I go alone, as planned. The clinic is the same cool brightness, the same polite chairs. A tech with careful hands taps my wrist for a bracelet and says my name like we're starting a meeting, not a procedure. I sign where they point. I wait where they tell me. I practice breathing like it's a chore worth doing well. In pre-op, the nurse asks, "Anyone here with you?" I say, "Not today," and watch her face do the small professional rearrangement that means she's filing that under note. Strong, also stubborn. She tucks a warm blanket around my knees. "I'll be with you the whole time," she says, and keeps her word. On the table, I look at the square of ceiling as if it could answer questions. I hold still. They do what they do. The antiseptic chill, the local sting, the pressure that feels like a truck changing lanes inside my chest. It's both more and less dramatic than television. I keep a finger on the edge of the sheet like a talisman. When it's done, the nurse says, "You were a champion." I don't feel like one. I feel like a person who did a hard thing while lying down. After, I sit in recovery, crackers in one hand, juice in the other, and text, "Home in an hour." Fine. More later. By the time the driver drops me at my front walk, no, not a driver, a neighbor I pressed into service yesterday with a key and a promise. The weather has decided to be honest and rain. The porch smells like wet wood and leftover summer. There's something on the mat, a glossy box tied with a bow. Inside, a stack of note cards already addressed to friends and family with Team Laura, printed in cheerful purple. I know whose idea that is. Diane believes in campaigns. I put the box on the dining chair labeled projects and let it be a project I don't pick up. My phone blinks itself awake with a flood I knew was coming. Evan, call when you're home. I'm outside if you want me. Maya, I'm 10 minutes away. Kara, I'm making soup. Joe, FaceTime when you have the energy. Paul, remember, we can discuss contingency planning. Naomi, thinking of you. No action needed. I triage. I call Joe first. The screen fills with my sister's face and our matching eyes. I did it, I say. We wait. I hate the waiting, she says. I like the part where it's honest, I say. It lets everything else be what it is. She nods as if I've said something worth nodding to. You want me there for results? Yes, I say, surprised by the speed of the word. Yes. After we hang up, I text the kids a time to stop by. 6:30, no flowers, no food, just you. At 5:45, the support surge tries its first wave. Kara texts a screenshot of a group chat I'm not in, a dinner train, a sign-up sheet, a suggestion for matching bracelets. Do you want this? She writes privately. I can shut it down, but I need you to tell me it's okay to be the bad guy. I picture my porch buried under casseroles that taste like obligation. Shut it down, I reply. You're not the bad guy. You're my bouncer. She sends a salute emoji and the single word, done. At 6:30 on the dot, Evan and Maya arrive without anyone attached, empty-handed except for their faces. Good. We sit. No speeches. I tell them simple. There is a mass. The biopsy will have more to say. We don't know yet. I'm okay tonight. I will be okay in the morning, because mornings are stubborn. Maya presses her fingertips to her lips like she's trying to keep words from falling out. Evan's jaw moves. Clench, unclench, a habit he got from teeth that didn't quite line up until orthodontia and still remember being corrected. Say what you think, I tell them, not what you think will help. I want to take you home, Maya blurts. To my place. We have space, I can... No, I say, kind and quick. I do not want to be relocated like a plant. She swallows, nods, a little ashamed. I know, I'm practicing. Evan clears his throat. I want to fix every variable I can, he says. Car rides, notes, calendars, but I also know I'll make it about me if I'm not careful. You won't if you follow the recipe, I say. One walk every other Sunday. One story you don't solve. One question you don't know the answer to. He smiles without showing teeth. Copy. Here are my rules, I say, because it helps all of us if we don't pretend there aren't any. No social media, no rallies, no surprises that involve balloons or speeches. If you cook, cook because you want dinner with me, not because you want to be known as someone who brings dinner. Text before you come. If I don't answer, assume I'm sleeping, not suffering. Maya's eyes shine. Can I take you Wednesday? No, I say. Not yet. Let me carry the first round. If I change my mind, I'll say so. Ask every time, accept no as a version of trust. She nods again, slower, like a student taking a concept into long-term memory. Okay. We sit a while in the unglamorous part of love. Quiet. The refrigerator hums. Outside, Rain ticks on the sidewalk. Evan rubs his knee the way he did when he was 12 and wanted to ask a hard thing. "What are you most afraid of?" he asks finally. "Becoming a project," I say, "and being treated like one. I want to stay a person." He looks at Maya. She looks at him. They both look at me like they've been handed a small, precise tool and intend to use it correctly. After they go, the doorbell rings again. Not the kids. A chorus. "Laura! Hey, surprise support circle!" I don't open it. I speak through the door, voice steady. "No circles tonight. Thank you for caring. Please take care of each other at your own house." There's shuffling, the awkward sound of good intentions hitting a boundary. A woman says, "We brought lasagna," with the tone of someone who expects a medal. I imagine the foil pan cooling like a disappointed moon. "Drop it at the shelter," I say, not unkind. "They'll know what to do." Kara texts a minute later. I intercepted. Lasagna redirected. Bouncer duties continue. I laugh alone in my kitchen in a way that feels like oxygen. Wednesday brings more appointments, more competent hands, more rooms where I am asked the same 3 questions to make sure I am still myself. Name? Laura. Date of birth? The one on my driver's license. What are we doing today? Practicing patience. In the afternoon, Maya comes for the hour we agreed to. No errands, no planning. She sits cross-legged on the couch like the girl who used to eat apples that dripped onto her homework. We do nothing in particular. She notices the photo on the pantry door and smiles at Max's spatula held like a flag. She tells me about a student who thinks the past tense is rude and writes everything as ongoing, which secretly I admire. "Tomorrow," she says before she leaves, "I'm bringing you something that isn't food." "Good," I say. "Bring me your time." Thursday at 8, fruit arrives with Kara and a question I didn't expect. "Can I be the point person?" she asks, eyes on the bowl as she tucks a slice of grapefruit into the neat spiral like she's filing a form. People feel better when they're doing something. I can hold the line and the calendar so they don't do the wrong somethings. Only if you want. "You're asking to be my logistics gate," I say. "You're bouncer," she corrects, a little grin. "With a spreadsheet." "Yes," I say. "And if I say no to something, you don't convert it to maybe." "Deal?" She takes out her small notebook, the one with the coastline of me in it, and adds a tab. "Boundaries," she writes. "Enforced by K." It's easier with her than I expected, in part because she's treating this like learning a language and not like solving a puzzle. She asks the right kind of questions, not "how can I fix it," but "what would feel good today?" "Honestly," I say, "help me go through the pantry. There's a shrine to expired good intentions in there." We throw out 3 bags of sauces and spices from the year Evan graduated. We keep what I actually use. We label one shelf pancakes like it's a holiday. That afternoon, a message dings from Naomi at the bank. "No action required, just a report. Your literacy gift funded 12 reading kits last month." I read it twice. The number is small enough to picture. I think of 12 kids holding books the size of their faces. I forward it to the family thread with no commentary. Evan replies with a heart. Maya replies with, "Let's go read there sometime." Kara replies privately, "I'll email them to coordinate." Tuesdays. I'm starting to understand that clarity breeds its own momentum. Give people something real to do, and they settle down. The results day lands on a Monday, again, like a week folding over its own edge. Joe comes, as promised. We eat scrambled eggs and make fun of each other's coffee. She sits beside me in the waiting room and does not narrate her worry. It's a relief to be loved by someone who doesn't require me to console them for loving me. The doctor, the one with the gaze that could level a picture frame at 20 feet, walks us through the path, report, in sentences that follow one another like stones across water. It is not the worst news. It is not the best. It is the middle path with a shoulder that drops off in places. There will be treatment. There will be side effects. There will be a plan. There will be more waiting. I prefer verbs, I say, and the doctor smiles like he's heard that plea before. He gives me a list of them. When we get home, Joe and I sit at my table. The peonies long gone, the vase clean and hopeful. I tell her about the rule I gave the kids. No rallies, no speeches, and she toasts it with her mug. To the small, durable, she says. And to your very stubborn mornings. We call Evan and Maya together on video so I don't have to say it twice. I give them the plain version, stage, plan, timeline. I tell them what will help and what will not. I expect you to keep your jobs, I say. I expect you to keep your lives. I expect you to ask before you step in. Maya cries in the quiet way, eyes full, chin up. Can I sit with you the first day of treatment? She asks, careful, like a student trying not to overstep. Yes, I say. Bring a book, bring the story you want me to hear. Evan's eyes are glassy. Walk Sunday, he says, because he knows better than to draft bigger promises in a moment like this. Walk Sunday, I say. We'll be the people who keep walking. Kara texts after the call, practical and gentle. I'll run interference on the meal train. Also, can I pick up the kids for pancakes so you can rest if you want? I type back, yes to interference. Pancakes, stay. If I'm tired, we'll eat toast and call it fancy. That evening, the house fills, not with people, but with commitments that look like furniture. Useful, solid, not for show. I print the treatment schedule and tape it inside the pantry door under the pancake photo. Our practice. I wrote on the recipes for Sophie. I write it again on the calendar. It fits. The support surge doesn't stop. It changes shape. People who need large gestures go find large crowds to be noble in. People who can do small, repeatable, boring things show up on Tuesdays and leave on time. The doorbell rings less and rings better. Diane sends a single text that is, to her credit, not a slogan. I don't know how to do this your way, but I'll try. I write back. Start by not organizing me. She replies, copy. It feels like a miracle, and also like a normal sentence two adults can say. The boundary I dreaded most, the one between information and intimacy, turns out to be firm and breathable. I tell the children what's needed and keep some parts for myself and my sister. Not secrets, just rooms where I can put my feet on the furniture without worrying about how it looks. 2 days later, Maya arrives with the thing that isn't food. It's a small clock with no numbers, just a single hand that travels a full circle in 24 hours. It's for the days that feel like they last forever, she says. You can watch time move without counting. It's perfect, I say, and I mean it. We hang it near the pantry photo like a cousin who moved in and belongs. Sunday, Evan wears new sneakers and doesn't mention them. We walk in loops that don't pretend to be destinations. He tells me nothing heroic. A weird email from his boss. A podcast he turned off because it made him feel like homework. A memory of being 8 and thinking my car could only make right turns because we always seem to go the long way around to everything. I tell him about the nurse who tucked the blanket around my knees like she was editing a sentence. We don't fix anything. We look at the water. Halfway home, he asks the kind of question I asked for. What's one thing you want to do because of this, not in spite of it? Santa Fe, I say without pausing. I want to go sit on Joe's porch and let the big sky make my bones quiet. Okay, he says. We'll plan it after your second treatment. We'll plan it after the first, I say. And we both grin because we hear the edge in my voice, and we like her now. Breakthrough or breakdown, the outline in my head promised. The truth is, it's both. Braided. People reach for me in the old ways, and I teach them the new ones. I reach for them in the old ways and stop my hand midair in practice. We keep the recipes close. We stack paper where it belongs. We eat pancakes even when no one finishes them. We make fruit bowls on Thursdays. We walk. At night, when the house makes its settling noises and the clock moves in its slow circle, I lift the letter of intent and read the line I thought I wrote for them and realize I wrote it for me. Nothing here is punishment. It is practice. I tape that sentence to the inside of the front door under the purple petal. When I leave the house for the next appointment, it's the last thing I see. When I come home, it's the first. That feels like the right kind of support. Mine, small, durable, exactly enough. The week pours itself into a pan and hisses. Appointments, scans, signatures, heat under everything. I keep moving the handle with a dish towel so I don't burn my palm on the life I chose. Monday is mapping and more labs, not drama. Maya sits with me the way I asked. Book in her lap, feet tucked under her like a cat that intends to stay. She tells me one small story about a student who insists commas are the polite hand on the elbow of a sentence. And I tuck it away because I like it better than almost anything. We do not make plans. We put the day on like a sweater and wear it through. By Wednesday, the doctor has verbs for me. Surgery soon, then a genomic test to decide if chemo is wise or waste. We'll let the numbers argue about it, he says, and writes dates like stepping stones. I nod. Stones I can do. Then Thursday brings the first flare. I'm walking out of the clinic when my phone pings itself into a small choir. A dozen texts, then 24. Former students, neighbors, the woman who cuts my hair and knows more than anyone should about people's vacations. I open one. We're with you. Donated. Team Laura. Donated? The link lands like a pan thrown onto the stove while it's already hot. A fundraiser page. All caps, purple banners, a photo I did not approve. The one from the book launch where the overhead lights find my scalp and not my smile. The copy is earnest and inaccurate. Our beloved mom, teacher, friend has a tough fight ahead. Let's lift her up. Meals, money, goals. A thermometer climbs, red and triumphant. Organizer, Diane. I stand on the sidewalk feeling my personhood peel like old paint. I can smell the well-meaning baked into it, the performative charity frosted on top. People are giving to a problem I haven't named, in a currency I did not ask for. I call Kara. I'm taking it down, I say, voice steady through fury. Now. I didn't know, she says immediately, breath catching on the word. She did it herself. I'll fix it. Fixing, I say, and the pan in me spits. Isn't a rally. It's a removal. I understand. She hangs up to do exactly what I asked. Before she can call back, Naomi from Heritage First Bank rings. 2 quick things, she says, professional and human at once. First, I wanted you to hear this from me. Someone called our general line to express concern that you may be changing documents under pressure. We've noted the call and attached the competency letter to your file. No impact. Second, your scheduled literacy donation cleared. 12 more kits funded. The first sentence punches, the second steadies. Thank you, I say, and mean both reliefs. Also, she adds softer, I report fundraisers I see attached to our clients when they look unsanctioned. It's already flagged to the platform. I hang up and lean against the cool of the clinic's brick. I'm tired in the way that makes you want to throw the pan out the window and eat cereal for dinner for the rest of your life. I text Evan, this is exactly what I meant by becoming a project. Please handle your side of the family. Already on it, he replies. Then after a minute, I'm sorry. This is my mess to mop. At home, I sit at the table with my purple petal and my letter of intent taped to the door where I can see them both. Jo calls without prelude. I saw the link, she says. Do you want a flamethrower or a hose? A hose, I say. We need to put it out without burning down their house. I'll call Diane, she says. I'm fluent in mothers-in-law who confuse a campaign with a relationship. By dinner time, the page is still up, bleeding confetti. Kara texts a screenshot of her messages with her mother. First offensive. People need to do. Then wounded. You're choosing her over me. Then bargaining. We'll donate the overflow. Kara. It's not overflow if we never needed it. Mom. You're being ungrateful. Kara. I'm being precise. Precision wins. At 7:14, the fundraiser changes its headline. At Laura's request, we are closing donations and redirecting all funds received to the Maple Glen Literacy Program. No institution named, just the local program Naomi mentioned. At 7:16, it closes. The comments keep popping like hot oil. "We're here for you, warrior. You got this. Team Laura forever." I feel nauseated, and not from medicine. I did not sign up for a public plotline. At 7:30, Evan and Maya arrive with no flowers and no food, as instructed. Kara comes too, cheeks high with the effort of doing the right thing against muscle memory. She stands just inside the door like she's ready to take a hit and stay upright. "I shut it down," she says. "Redirected every penny. Issued refunds to people who asked." "I'm sorry." "Thank you," I say. "And I'm sorry you had to bouncer your own mother." She blinks quickly at the kindness like her eyes weren't expecting it. "I made a mess in the name of help," she says. "Then I carried a mop. This is me trying." We sit. We practice being the size of the room, not a parade. Evan clears his throat. "There's more," he says, voice low. "I met with a lawyer 2 weeks ago, not to take anything from you, to understand what we could do if we thought someone else was steering." "You," I say, jaw tight. "Or Diane?" "Me," he says, and looks at the table like he's ready for his own pop quiz. Kara didn't ask me to. I asked myself to. It was a bad instinct dressed in concern. Maya winces. "We're saying everything out loud tonight, aren't we?" "We are," I say. "Because if this is the fire test, I want to know what burns and what holds." "Thank you for telling me. Don't do it again." "I won't," he says, and I believe him because there's nothing defensive in it. He looks more relieved than scolded, like a kid who finally understands the instructions. Before we can continue, my phone rings with the clinic's number. We all freeze. I almost let it go to voicemail out of spite for narrative timing. Then I pick up. "Laura?" the doctor says, voice brisk, smiling. "I know we had you scheduled to discuss next steps in person, but I have something you'd rather hear now. The genomic assay came back." I press speaker and put the rectangle in the middle of the table, like we're huddled around a very small campfire. "Your score is low," he says, words clean, merciful. "That means chemotherapy adds no measurable benefit. We stick with surgery, local radiation, and endocrine therapy. Your prognosis remains very good." I go still in the way you go still when a bridge appears where you expected to swim. Everyone exhales at once. "Thank you," I say, and he hears the whole neighborhood in it. My pantry, my pedal, my people. He reminds me of dates and side effects, and the fact that my life will get very boring in a hopeful way. We hang up. We stare at the phone a second longer, as if it might spit coins like a miracle slot machine. Then Maya covers her mouth and cries with relief, the way tired people cry when they've been carrying a heavy bag and someone says, "Set it down." Evan leans back and looks like someone loosened the knot behind his ribs. Kara wipes at her face and laughs once, surprised. "I was ready to fight dragons," she says. "Turns out we get paperwork." "Turns out," I say, "we were always going to get paperwork." The relief is real. It does not erase the burn. "About Diane," I say. Kara straightens. "I'll handle it," she says before I ask. "I'll tell her. No more campaigns, no more slogans. If she wants to help, she can read with kids at the program she just funded." "That's a good conversion," I say. "From confetti to chairs." Maya wipes her eyes dry and the teacher in her shows up. "We need a new rule," she says. "No one posts about you without your consent, not even something small. We treat your life like a private classroom. You invite who you invite. Add it to the memo," I say. Evan's eyes meet mine. "I'll call the lawyer tomorrow and tell him we're not pursuing anything and to delete our file," he says. "I'll also email Naomi in case she needs something in writing that says I withdraw all concerns." He swallows. "I'm sorry, Mom." "I accept," I say. "Apology is better than a bouquet." Kara fishes her notebook out of her bag, flips to the tab labeled Boundaries, and writes, "No posts without consent, no rallies, redirect excess energy to literacy." She underlines the last one and says, "I'm better with verbs too. We eat toast and call it fancy. We do not give a speech. We watch the absurd little fundraiser comments trail off and then stop. The link now points politely to a page where people can sign up to volunteer. I can breathe again. After they go, the house smells like cinnamon and damp coats and relief." Jo calls back. "I like this version of breakthrough," she says. "The kind where the good news lands while there's still some mess to see it against." "Me too," I say. "If the mess had been bigger, we would have still had good news. But it's nice that the story didn't let Diane end the chapter." Jo snorts. Diane never ends chapters. She writes slogans in the margins. We make our Santa Fe plan while the relief is fresh enough to use. A porch, scones, sky. I put it on the calendar in pencil and then go over it in pen, because hope is allowed to have ink. Friday morning, there's a small pile of mail, most of it polite panic in envelopes, pre-authorizations, reminders. One is a hand-addressed note from the woman in the red coat who took my book like bread. "No casseroles," she writes. "But if you'll have me, I'll read at the library on Tuesdays at 4. My yes is immediate and uncomplicated. At 10, Naomi calls again, this time sounding pleased. "Got an email from your son," she says. "Very clear. We've added it to the file." No further notes from concerned parties. "Thank you for being a grown-up bank," I say. "We like grown-up clients," she says, and we both laugh a little too long because we needed a laugh. By noon, Kara texts a screenshot of a message from Diane. "I am out of my depth. I will take a reading slot at the program on Wednesdays. I will bring fruit." Underneath, Kara writes. She means it. I'll coach her in not making an event out of it. "Fruit is on brand," I reply. It's the first generous sentence I've said about Diane in weeks, and I mean it. That afternoon, Maya shows up with the clock that goes in slow circles and a stack of index cards. "Language check," she says. "When people ask how you are, what's your sentence?" We write workshop style until we land on one that tells the truth without inviting a parade. I'm in treatment with a good plan. I'm keeping my days small and meaningful. Thanks for asking. We practice saying it to each other until it fits in the mouth. Sunday, Evan and I walk in the cold that thinks it's spring. He tells me a dumb joke he heard on a podcast and a useful story about his boss learning to apologize in public. He asks a question he can't answer. "What does enough look like to you from me?" "Today," I say. "This." He nods. We watch a pair of teenagers skate by in mismatched socks and bravery, and I think about how little and how much changes. Back home, I print a one-page addendum to the letter of intent. Not binding, just binding me to myself. What we do now. We keep Saturdays at 10 o'clock sacred and sticky. We keep Thursday fruit at 8 with questions that don't score points. We walk every other Sunday without solving the week. We redirect any accidental campaigns to chairs where people can sit with kids and books. We treat love like a practice with makeups, not a test with grades. I sign it and tape it under the first note below the purple petal. It looks like a small shrine to repetition and mercy. That evening, the doctor's office calls with a final calendar. Dates, times, windows, the kind of schedule that would have made me twitch once and now feels like a web trying to hold me, not trap me. I text it to the kids. Evan replies with a shoe. Maya replies with a book emoji. Kara replies with a fruit bowl. Jo replies with a sky. The fire test, it turns out, did not prove who would charge the dragon for me. It showed who could stand in the kitchen while the pan spits and not flinch, who could turn the heat down instead of throwing the whole thing out. It showed me I can do it too. Take the handle with a towel, move the flame, keep what's cooking. I sit with my book and find the line about second acts needing no permission. I underline it again, darker. There's a smear of purple below where the petal brushed when I taped it to the door. It looks like a thumbprint. It looks like a signature. When I go to sleep, I think of the thermometer bar on that page sliding sideways into chairs and story time, of Diane looking at a calendar and choosing not to announce it, of Kara underlining no posts, of Evan deleting a lawyer's number, of Maya picking sentences that fit. Miraculous things, all in the exact size of a day. Tomorrow, we start the plan I didn't know I was allowed to hope for. Not because a banner told me I'm a warrior, because breakfast will be pancakes, and the griddle will be hot, and 3 small people will arrive with cinnamon and a leaf named TBD, and we will practice, which is another word for living. Spring arrives like someone opening a window in a room we forgot was stuffy. The crabapple out front throws confetti that does not need a banner. My treatment turns into a rhythm that is almost boring. Appointments, a nap, a walk, fruit on Thursdays, pancakes on Saturday, the slow circle of Maya's clock marking days that add up whether I'm watching or not. I keep the letter of intent taped to the inside of the door, under the purple petal that's gone brittle at the edges. I don't take it down. I like that the petal stays itself and also becomes something else. Color turned to memory. Softness turned to proof. When new peonies arrive at the market, I buy a bunch and put them on the table without announcing it to anyone. Purple moons again, a private holiday. The first day of radiation, Maya sits beside me, shoes off, book open, a pencil tucked in her hair like punctuation. We don't talk much. She looks up sometimes, and I see that she is learning how to keep her face from trying to fix things. Commas, she whispers once, tapping her page. Polite hands on the elbow. I nod. We practice our polite hands. Evan and I keep our Sunday walks like a handshake we renew. He's turned his questions into the kind you carry on a loop instead of the kind you hurl like a lasso. What surprised you this week? He asks. Or, what did you ignore on purpose? He tells me about a meeting that ended early because someone said, what if we don't actually need to prove anything? I like his boss that day. I like my son most days. He tells me a story he can't solve about a friend who left a marriage kindly. We do not litigate it. We let the river run. Kara shows up on Thursdays with fruit and fewer defenses. She still has the notebook. She doesn't always open it. Sometimes we eat in silence. Sometimes she asks one question and then lets it stand like a vase on a table. Once she says, I told my mother I can't be her proof. And then we peel oranges like that sentence did something structural in her. Diane now reads at the library's after-school program on Wednesdays. Just the one slot, Kara reports. No slogans. She sends a photo Kara took from the back. Kids bent over picture books, Diane's head tilted toward a page, fruit in a bowl that looks like it might be grapefruit. I text back. Good. It's a chair, not a campaign. The fundraiser page is gone, replaced by an unglamorous spreadsheet of volunteer shifts. Sometimes people need chairs more than thermometers. Naomi from the bank sends a quarterly note. Kit's funded, 24, and a smile in her signature. She never adds advice unless I ask for it. I like professionals who don't try to turn my life into their portfolio. The trusts sit where they sit, drawn up and quiet. I don't think about them most days. The grandchildren show up on purpose now because we are practicing. Sophie arrives with cinnamon and the phrase, particularity matters, which makes me laugh. Max tells me about a bridge he saw in a documentary and how it hums in certain winds. Nora brings me a new leaf each month and names it something provisional. Name to be revised, name if you like it, name for now. We tape our pancake photo to the pantry door and add a second one months later. In the new picture, Max has flour on his nose, Sophie holds up a whisk like a wand, and Nora throws confetti from the crabapple tree. I stick the second photo under the first, so when I reach for cereal, my whole life is there, private and loud. There's a day in late May when the last session ends and the text says, "That's it." And I want to clap. But instead, I cry in the bland little dressing room because endings arrive quiet in rooms where strangers fold warm blankets and hand you water. The doctor gives me verbs for the future: follow, monitor, maintain, and I write them on an index card and tack it above my desk like a syllabus. I resist the urge to turn my health into coursework. I pass the class if I keep living. We go to Santa Fe because I said we would and because I put it in ink. Joe's porch is a wide wooden sentence with a long clause for staring. The sky is the opposite of a ceiling. We eat scones that flake into our laps and let the crumbs be birds' business. I sleep on her couch with a blanket my grandmother crocheted before she forgot how, and in the morning my shoulders remember what it is to drop. Evan texts a picture of his sneakers by the river. Maya sends a photo of the clock face, the single hand pointing to morning like it's a direction worth choosing. We don't do anything special there. Joe reads. I read. We take a photo of our coffee cups at 6:30 in the morning, and again at 10 at night, and laugh that both pictures are proof of the same day. I tell her I'm tired of being brave, and she says, "Be ordinary then." And I decide that's my bravery for the month. When I come home, the house smells like wood and lemon, and the last of spring rain. There's a note from Diane on the mat. Not the scripted calligraphy, but her own hand, smaller than I expected. Laura, it says, I am trying to be useful without being central. Thank you for letting me practice near you. D, I put the note in a drawer I label efforts and count it as one. The resolution isn't a moment, it's a pattern that holds. The big gestures recede, the small ones endure. The group thread titled Family Dinner Planning dies a natural death from lack of oxygen. In its place, 3 separate threads grow like herbs in the kitchen. Pancakes, Thurs fruit, sunwalk. They do not require caps or exclamation points. One Tuesday, the woman in the red coat from the little free library meets me at the after-school program. She hands me my book back, its spine worn kindly. I underlined the sentence about second acts not needing permission, she says, and I gave it to my sister. I tell her I once wrote that line for strangers, and now I live it like a simple chore. Sweep, stretch, stir. At home, the what we do now addendum hangs under the first letter. I add one more line with a cheap pen. We forgive missed practices and start again next week. I underline start. I circle again. I'm learning that mercy is not a mood. It's a schedule. Maya brings me a plant that cannot decide whether it wants sun or shade, and we move it around the room together all afternoon, laughing at the way we talk to it like a child who might grow if we guess right. If it dies, she says, we buy another one and practice on that one. We are both very proud of our bad science. Evan tells me on a walk where the air feels like a clean shirt that he called that lawyer months ago and asked the office to delete the file. The assistant said, "Already done," he reports, a little sheepish. Apparently, Naomi beat me to adulthood. He kicks a pebble and then says, "Mom, your favorite movie is still A Room with a View." I tell him today it's Moonstruck and tomorrow it might be something else. Good, he says. I like keeping up. Kara and I do a pantry clean-out without making it a metaphor, and then, because we are who we are now, we make it a little bit of a metaphor. We keep what gets used. We label a shelf joy. She writes it in her careful block letters like she is committing to a subject. Sometimes she tells me a story about her childhood and we don't diagnose it to death. Sometimes I tell her one about mine and she doesn't try to rehabilitate it. We nod and pass the bowl. On a Sunday, when the path is muddy and I am cranky for no good reason, Evan asks his required question and I swat it away and then apologize for swatting. 9 out of 10 Sundays is enough, he says lightly. We'll bank this one for later. Later, we both text banked, and it feels stupid and also like a string tied around a finger in a way that helps. The trusts for the grandchildren will sit for years, I hope. The kids are already earning something those papers can't confer: habit. Sophie writes me letters on notebook paper and folds them into shapes she learned on the internet. Max calls to tell me about a bridge that sings and then hums into the phone for 20 seconds, which I count as art. Nora finds a purple petal under the table and tapes it to the pantry door next to our photos. "It's still purple," she says, "but different." I say, "Yes," and we both look satisfied like scientists who proved a small thing. In July, I take 3 of the unsold copies of my novel from the trunk I never fully unpacked and leave them at the Little Free Library on Laurel Street. A teenager in a sweatshirt too heavy for summer picks one up, flips to the dedication, and stays still long enough for stillness to be an answer. "Is it good?" she asks without looking up. "It tells the truth it knows," I say. She nods, like that's the kind she's in the market for. The house changes shape around the life I'm actually living. I move the fancy platter I used to bring to other people's parties to the top shelf and put the everyday bowls where my hand falls. I leave the hook by the door labeled "Your Expectations. Check here." Because it makes me snort every time I see it, and because sometimes I do hang something there before I step inside. I rearrange the mantel so that there are more photographs of small, ordinary things. Pancake batter, a leaf, sneakers by a door, a fruit bowl, than of staged holidays. I keep one picture of the book launch because beginnings deserve witnesses even if they're messy. I stand at the mantel and think, this is a life someone could walk into and know me. One evening, Jo calls from her porch and holds the phone up so I can hear the wind. "Forecast calls for ordinary," she says, and we both grin. "I'll take it," I say. We plan another trip in ink. It's funny how travel becomes simpler when you are not using it to save anyone. If there is a last test, it comes as a small, pointed question from Maya at my table while the peonies do their annual impression of the moon. "Mom," she says, "if the trusts were gone tomorrow and the will were simpler and the money went elsewhere, would we still be doing this?" "Yes," I say, without waiting for the teacher's pause. "That paper is a map for after I'm gone. This is us learning the roads while I'm here." She leans back, satisfied. "Good," she says. "I wanted to make sure we're not just being bribed by the future." "Present tense bribery," I say, "comes as pancakes. We laugh, we eat, we stack plates." Kara texts a photo from the library of Diane with a child on her lap and no caption. Evan sends a picture of a bridge from the angle where the structure looks like lace. Jo sends me a sky. I send back the pantry door. 2 photos, a purple petal, a calendar that no longer needs medical appointments to feel full. I don't write a grand letter to my children about legacy. I write a sticky note and add it to the door under the others. What remains is what repeats. Then, because I do love a list, I write a few items in my neat teacher hand. Small dinners without a toast, fruit bowls with a question, walks that are not errands, letters that fold like birds, money that follows love, not the other way around. I sign it. Not because I think anyone will need my signature to honor it, because I like seeing my name on my own instructions. On the first crisp Saturday of September, Sophie brings nutmeg to audition next to cinnamon. Max brings a blueprint he drew for the bridge in his head. Nora brings a new leaf with a hole in the middle shaped like an eye. We whisk and flip. We set the table with plates that don't match. Evan washes while Maya dries, and they don't narrate it or turn it into an allegory. Kara texts that she'll be late and arrives exactly when she said she would. Fruit like a bouquet, no speeches. I pour coffee. The house holds all of us without straining. The purple petal on the door is curled and decisive. Question of the day, I say, and the children beam because rituals are a kind of inheritance no bank can itemize. Ask something you don't know the answer to. Max says, "How do bridges hum?" Sophie says, "How do you know when a recipe is yours?" Nora says, "What is the name of the color purple that is also red when it's tired?" We try to answer, and we don't. We eat, and we are not in a hurry to be anywhere else. When they leave, the house is messy in the right places. Crumbs, a smear of jam, a leaning stack of plates in the sink that I will get to when I get to them. I stand in the kitchen and think, this is what remains. the not hurrying. The plate leaned not because I am lazy, but because I am living. In the afternoon, I take one book from the last unsold box and carry it to the little free library, because apparently I like finishing what I start and sharing it with strangers. On the way home, I pass the crabapple, and a breeze lets go of 100 petals at once. It looks a little like victory and a lot like weather. Inside, I touch the petal on the door. It breaks, finally, into 2 clean halves and falls into my hand. I press one half into my book again. I tuck the other into a small envelope labeled TBD, because some names take their time. Then I sit at the table where the peonies are full and ridiculous and pour myself coffee I do not share. I open my calendar and write, in pen, across the next Saturday, pancakes 10 a.m. I write it across the one after that and the one after that until the month looks like a pattern you could trust. I don't know how long I get. No one does. But I know the shape of the life I'm keeping, and I know how to set the table for it. It looks like purple and fruit and flower dust, like walks that touch the same tree and call it by name, like a letter on a door that tells the truth, like a bridge that hums because the wind is doing its job, like a map that makes sense while you're still on the road. I close the calendar. I turn Maya's slow clock with one gentle finger and watch the hand move the smallest distance. Then I do the quiet, ordinary thing that feels like a vow. I turn on the griddle and set out the bowls, measuring with my eye instead of the cup, trusting that practice, what remains, will be enough. If this story resonated with you, leave a like and consider subscribing. You can also drop any comment below, even just one word. Maybe tell me where you're watching from, or what time it is right now. Sometimes one word is enough to say you were here.